sure what a Devon farmer from the colonies is really supposed to say to the leaders in this field, especially since much of the message I was crafting was really aimed at the minister. But that's not entirely fair, because I think the message is a very strong one of challenging ourselves within the sector. The minister and I were on a panel together last autumn, and it was really a thought process that started there, that political decisions are going to be made, big political decisions are going to be made in the next more like 2 to 3 years rather than 3 to 5 years. And it's very important that we as a sector actually deliver a solid vision of what it is we're trying to do. And so that's really what I'm going to try and do in this presentation. For those of you who don't know, OREG is a 110, 130 member association formed in Canada, but with about 20% of its membership from the international leadership in the ocean energy world. The essence, I think, that we have to face up to is providing some idea of the scale, scope, and the time frame that goes actually beyond the next 5 and 10 years. Maria laid out some numbers, which I think are the kinds of stories that we have to tell: the instant, the coming, the near future, the medium future. But I think we actually have to go beyond that and have to start talking about 2030, 2040, and 2050. And one of the issues we're talking with BWA about, with Ireland and with the EU Association, is that the International Panel of Climate Change is writing a report on alternate energies. Right now, there is no target in there for what ocean energy will contribute in the solution. So this is an example of the gap that we have. Because we've been focusing at climbing up that hill, we haven't actually articulated what the peak looks like, and we really need to do some work to put that forward. Others are doing it. The Scientific American story that came out in November put a massive, a terawatt target for tidal and wave energy by 2035. Others are looking at ocean energy now, accepting that it will be part of the solution. They're looking at it and saying the solution we need is 200 megawatts, is a terawatt. So we have to react to that and think about how we get there. We are very much preoccupied, I think, by the experience curve. I put it in words as opposed to the graphics that we keep looking at. We've been very much preoccupied by the first 2 columns of this table for the last few years. We're beginning to think about the third column, but that is really where a lot of our strategizing, a lot of our planning has to focus. A lot of the imagery we create around the industry has to be focused on that next phase. I'm going to go quickly through these next 3 slides because you'll all argue with much of the content in them. The top part of it you've seen lots of times. It's Henry and Marcus's technology roadmap. Underneath it, I basically tried to identify some of the trends I see happening during this period. I mean, in this one, we're really seeing affordability, reliability being things that we have to establish in this 2015 time period. Better move on before anyone reads it. When we look at finances, it's again in this 2015 time period where we've got to see a transition from the technology push to the market pull. We've got to somehow get to the point where this industry can start attracting debt financing. It would be nice if we would attract any financing at the moment, but dreaming of being able to expand it using debt financing is clearly a transition that we have to achieve in this decade. Spent too long on that. You read that one again too. The transition we're seeing is, and I think already there was talk about it. We've seen a transition from what I refer refer to as the inventor-led industry to, first of all, aggressive or adventurous utilities showing an interest, and more recently, larger industrials, integrators coming into the field. These are very important transitions, and I see over this decade an emergence of an industry where the specialist experience starts to come in, so that you don't have the pioneer companies having to solve all of the problems from A to Z. We are attractive enough that the supply chain is working with us and solving some of our problems for us. Part of the discussion with David Kidney really is this big issue of the external risks. If we don't start providing a clear image of being a significant contributor, then we get written off as another solution like hydrogen. I mean, it's quite horrifying. You walk into policy analysis in ministerial offices, and they totally dismiss hydrogen as a bad mistake. They were promised something and it just hasn't materialized. We are dealing with, despite being green or blue, we are dealing with a split personality public that wants clean green solutions, but they don't want it in their backyard, they don't want it at their expense, and some people don't want it in their lifetimes. The challenge that we are looking for in this 10 years really is the transition between something that's led by technology developers and is more and more led by customers or larger scale manufacturers. We are looking for that transition where that competition that was just talked to for labor, for equipment, boats, etc., that competition becomes more of a level playing field, because the suppliers, the financiers begin to see that there actually is a pathway that this industry will develop to be a good book of business. If you operate ships and you're asked to work for 3 weeks for marine renewable energy in the middle of a busy season, it's very easy for you to say, we're too busy, we're not going to do the work. If you see that next year there's a bigger slice and the year after there's a bigger slice, you start to take it much more seriously. And my facetious comment is, when we have an event like this where the room is full of lawyers, insurers and bankers, we know we've actually got it solved. So until we have the insurers, bankers and lawyers in the room, we are still working an uphill battle. A little bit of overlap here, but we have to demonstrate that we are part of the solution that our political leadership is looking at. We have to demonstrate the business opportunities, the financial earning opportunities. And we still have to, and I'm very envious of the work of the Carbon Trust, ETI, and various other initiatives here. We still do have to have a way of incubating the disruptive technologies that are going to be required to refine this. I think the market driver is one of the critical things in demonstrating that there is likely to be a consistent growth and development of the sector. And I think the discussions in Scotland around the 5 rocks really are establishing what may be the price to kick off the 2010-2012 projects. The other critical thing is the place to work, and the growing number of what I refer to as development centres, because I think if people are realising that just having a testing centre in the ocean doesn't necessarily get you where you need to be. The growing number of development centres which will see the progression towards arrays without the small part, the initial projects having to take all of the burdens of permitting, of connection, and all of those things are a significant step forward. And my Canadian flag is, I'm starting to get into the sales part of this presentation, that we have a couple of these developing in Canada. I think, and this was aimed at the Minister, I think there is something that is unique to what really is the chasm of death in marine renewable energy. Governments don't realize there are no small marine projects. You can't have a small marine project, or if you do, it's on the beach. So the scale of even small pilot projects is 10 times bigger than has happened in other energy developments, and people have to take that message home. Now I put my Canadian flags there, but the reality is the things that will build this momentum are actually starting to all fall into place here. The roadmaps and strategies, the action plan here. I don't know all the details, but I did take the opportunity to whisper to the minister that I had only been in town for 20 hours, and I had already heard that there was some dissatisfaction with the action plan. But, you know, it's starting. What we've done over the last 5 to 10 years is what I refer to as act tactically, but think strategically. Now we're going back and trying to develop the strategy around those tactical activities, which is designed really to ensure that the tactical approaches can endure and can deliver what is required. So things like the strategic environmental assessment announcement are critical. We're all dealing with marine spatial planning activities that are coming along at a time where we haven't adequately defined what our industry looks like, where it will be, and what it will be doing. And so these are critical processes that we have to drive with things like outputs from SEAs. And I've talked a little bit more already about really creating a vision of what that long-term market is there, and to get the politicians and the public recognizing that this enhanced marketplace, this supported marketplace is what is there in the transition towards a market that will ultimately be driven by pricing on carbon. But you have to use other mechanisms in order to get there. So Oliver wanted me to sort of rank where the UK was in the world, and of course we're full of the Olympics. The podium continues. I should say, if you count top 5 positions, Canada was the winner of the whole Winter Olympics, as well as, you heard about the goals. So right now, in my rather superficial perspective, you know, Scotland is looking pretty good as a place to do things, a place where you're welcome, and likely we're going to see a lot of activity in Scotland. The UK as a whole is there if the ROC system continues to follow through. And so I've claimed bronze, which is probably a pretty outrageous claim, but I want you to watch the space. I mean, I think we have some opportunities. It depends really whether we are traditionally Canadian or whether we take the Olympic approach. There are things going on. Minas Passage is a big focus right now. The open hydro machine is in the water. Canoe Pass is small-scale tidal in BC. We were very excited to see the clean current technology adopted by Alstom. New Energy is selling small-scale hydrokinetic machines. We have a couple of potentially disruptive wave approaches that are being developed. We are starting to do a technology roadmap. We do have the best resource mix of any country in the world. And we finally are beginning to see some of the policy drivers coming. The Nova Scotia government is refreshing its energy strategy and will likely come out with a Marine Energy Act by the middle of this year. The BC government has committed to a Green Energy Act this year. It has one of the most aggressive clean electricity plans in the world. It's, depending on how you read it, it's either 90 or 100%. And the other thing that's happening involving everyone from California to Alaska, including BC, is the Western Climate Initiative, which will actually establish a carbon market by January 12. So Maria's getting anxious and wants me out of here. If you want to know more, if you want to join ORIC, if you want to come to our events, there's the story. Thank you.
Thank you.